It's no the cars. I just it's just the background.
Still, nice touch.
Nice background, Nick.
And recording in progress.
Thank you.
Call this, land use hearing to order. And this will be for the Tower Road Interchange Area Management Plan, Transportation System Plan Amendment TSP 164-26. An opening statement. Good afternoon. My name is David Sykes, Chair of the Morrow County Board of Commissioners. I will preside over the hearing today. Morrow County Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Ordinance Amendment TSP 164-26. Tower Road Interchange and Area Management Plan. IAMP adoption. This hearing is to adopt the Tower Road Interchange Management Plan, IMP. The adoption, adoption includes proposed amendments to the Morrow County Comprehensive Plan, adoption of the IAMP overlay zone, IAMP Section 3, 126 into the Morrow County zoning ordinance, and zoning map amendment to apply the IAMP overlay zone to the Tower Road Interchange area. Persons who wish to provide testimony may do so orally or in writing. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the applicable criteria. Testimony will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Please sign the sheet at the back of the room. Make note in chat if you are participating via Zoom. If you would like to present testimony, please speak only when identified by the chair. Begin by giving your name, the spelling of your name, and your address. If you have exhibits for our consideration, please provide us a copy to the staff. If you would like to request that the board hold open the record or continue the hearing, you must make that request before the public portion of the hearing is closed. This concludes the introduction, and we'll start with the call for abstentions or conflict of interest. And then we'll start with our staff report. Jayfa?
Yes, thank you. For the record, Tamara Mabbitt, Planning Director.
And Caitlin Kennedy with Compliance Planner.
Yeah, and Caitlin's been the project manager on this interchange area management plan project for the past almost 2 years. And so I'm going to let her do the brief staff report. And we made just one copy of the record that we went through. Anyway.
Yes. So we have worked.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you. Could you identify yourself to people who, just to make sure everybody knows who's given the staff report?
Yes. So Caitlin Kennedy with Morrow County Planning Department. I have been working with the consultant, Kittleson and Associate, Nick Foster's online for them to represent them. We also have a consultant from Herbsworks for the code language, Kelly Martin with ODOT, who we've been working closely with. So the project has included, technical advisory committees, public advisory committees, and they have come up with a draft for the interchange area at the 159 I-84 off Tower Road. And so that's taken quite a bit of work and coordination through the different agencies. We did have a work session with board members and Planning Commission back in March, where we went over the phasing options and the final outcome that we were looking at, as well as cost estimates. That draft is still available on our project website, which is linked to our county website. So today we are looking to formally adopt the Tower Road Interchange Area Management into the comprehensive plan and the overlay zone as an amendment to the comprehensive plan and the TSP.
Okay.
So if you like, Nick, would you like to do a brief overview of the project?
Sure thing. Let me share my screen here too, if I can. Let's see. You are hopefully all no longer seeing me, but now seeing the title slide of a presentation.
We are.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Caitlin. As Caitlin said, I'm Nick Foster. I am with Kittleson and Associates. We were the lead consultant on this project. Supported today from our project team also by Shelley Dennison of Herbsworks, who handled some of the code language elements that we'll talk about. And then, this project is funded and sponsored by the Oregon Department of Transportation. And we have Teresa Penninger and Kelly Martin on the line from them today, too, to help out with questions. So with that, I will go over the project a little bit. For you who were at our work session back in March, some of this material will seem familiar, but we will get into some of the implementing actions a little bit more today than we did at our work session back in March up in Oregon. So as a reminder, this project is looking at the Tower Road interchange, exit 159 itself, as well as Tower Road south of the freeway down to the airport access road. We are also looking at the land use in the surrounding area shown on this map with that red dashed line. And that was our entire study area. We were looking at a 20-year planning horizon, trying to take into account all the growth that could occur in this area during that time and what changes would need to occur to protect the function of that interchange, both from an operational, capacity, but also from safety perspective. There is, as everyone I'm sure is aware, some plenty of ongoing development in that area, and it's expected to continue. Light industrial technology and agricultural uses are primarily what's out there today and what the zoning would allow, and what the county has had us plan for. So the plan ultimately identifies future land use strategies, transportation projects, access management plans, as well as some potential funding mechanisms. I'll note that large area you'll see here also on the screen, it does say it is the overlay zone for future traffic analysis and the potential establishment of a proportionate share fee system. That's part of the implementing actions we'll talk about later. And it's probably also good just to remind everyone that this is a long-range plan. There is no guarantee of funding necessarily of anything that is in here at this time. So identified concerns are summarized here. So this is concerns, some of these exist today, like concerns we heard from both freight and passenger vehicle operators about sight distance and turning radius, concerns from agencies about access near the interchange ramps and how that may affect things as development occurs in the area. And just with the amount of development that could happen in this area, the interchange in its current form does not have sufficient capacity to handle continued growth over a 20-year period, based on what we're projecting for this project. So that's what we are trying to address, is how do we safely accommodate future development in this area at this interchange. The project has been going on for just about 2 years now. Later this month, we'll hit the 2-year anniversary. We are here now near the end of the project. I do want to point out, Caitlin did talk about all our advisory committee meetings that we had along the way. We also did specific outreach to the freight and the general community, online and in person. We did interviews with different operators, both freight receivers as well as freight haulers. We also presented to ODOT's Mobility Advisory Committee back in April of this year, so after the last time we talked with all of you. And then we did not get any significant concerns from them. They did have some questions related to freight and how that would be accommodated going forward. as well as people walking and biking. The Planning Commission did approve the interchange area management plan at their last meeting in July. And so the next step after adoption by you all, if that happens here today, would be to take this to the Oregon Transportation Commission for acceptance. To develop these concepts, we worked with the advisory committees, county, ODOT, Port of Morrow, business and other community interests, City of Boardman representatives too, and the project team. We did a multi-tiered evaluation to get our initial 9 concepts down to 5 that we did a further evaluation on. I went over some of that in further detail with you all back in March. And ultimately, the concept you see on the screen here is what we came to as the preferred concept. A big reason for this selection was its ability to handle phased implementation. So as development occurs out there, this thing can be built in multiple pieces, which we think it provides a greater pathway to implementation, a more realistic option. We have few different phasing options for it in this plan. I'll get into those a little bit here on the next slides. You will also see that we have roundabouts at the ramp interchange terminals. The selection of roundabouts over signals came down to safety benefits of the roundabouts, as well as the ability to avoid having to build a wider bridge. So that also came into it, which helps with the phasing. The first phasing option that's contained in the plan assumes that this is how phasing might happen, assuming that development continues south of the interchange as it's happening today, and that development north of I-84 happens sometime outside this 20-year window. Under this, we have 4 different components. We have this westbound, I-84 westbound loop off-ramp. So if you're coming today, you would be able to come out here, and instead of having to make a left turn, you're now making a right turn onto the freeway, which leaves you only conflicting with the through traffic coming from the north, which is very light today and would continue to be light, assuming there's no development north of I-84. So that's a big capacity and safety change there. It also includes additional merging lane onto I-84 eastbound, so a longer merging time for traffic going onto I-84 eastbound to handle increased traffic coming from that way, as well as a dedicated right turn lane that flows into an auxiliary lane on Tower Road, again, so you get greater capacity there that way, and then as well as a pedestrian bicycle bridge on the east side of I-84, again, to accommodate the future Heritage Trail extension through the area. Phasing option number 2 assumes that development north of I-84 is happening at the same time development south of I-84 is happening, and happens in that same 20-year window. This here then triggers some of the same similar first steps, of the loop ramp, the widening of the ramps onto I-84 eastbound, the right turn lane from the eastbound off ramp onto Tower Road. But it also includes additions of roundabouts at both of the ramp terminals, since you now have traffic coming from the north and that development too. So you have to accommodate that. You now have conflicts with your northbound left turns here. It also includes a bridge over the railroad to access that new development. That railroad is as you know, it's pretty close to the interchange ramps. And so as the interchange ramps move further north to accommodate the loop ramps and to accommodate traffic over them, we'd be looking at a grade separated railroad bridge there. Otherwise, components are very similar, but you can see the cost goes up because we are doing more with the roundabouts with the railroad bridge. Phasing option number 3 is similar in terms of its end product, what you saw in phasing option number 2, it just assumes development happens maybe quicker, and we're building things more, in fewer phases, and so the cost goes down a bit because you're not building just one thing at a time, and so there's less mobilization and other sort of costs that come with each construction project. Tower Road itself, as traffic grows in the area, we'll need to look at different intersection forms out there at some of these critical driveways. So the ones we were focused on were the intersection at the Love Southern Driveway, which actually is a public street, Coonsey Lane, and then Boardman Airport Lane. So in the future, with the volumes we're projecting, we're looking at a tower road with 2 lanes in each direction, down to Coonsey. The transition from 2 lanes in each direction would happen somewhere between Coonsey and Boardman Airport. As we get through the intersections and we no longer need the lanes to meet the county's operational targets. We looked at both roundabout and signalized intersection forms. This here shows how roundabouts in the area, the sizing of the roundabouts. You can see we are looking at multi-lane roundabouts at the Southern Driveway to Loves, as well as at Coonsey, and kind of a hybrid at Boardman Airport Lane, Tower Road. The biggest concern we heard about roundabouts on Tower Road, as well as at the interchanges themselves, was oversized loads. And so those would need to be designed for in the in the design phase of the project. If for some reason, they cannot be designed for properly, it's not going to work for right away or some other reason here. We do have a traffic signal option, which I'll show on the next slide. Signals, still for oversized loads do have considerations. If they're over height, signal mast arms can be a challenge. But the goal, I think the key takeaway here is the plan does leave flexibility for the design phase to determine what really is most appropriate at the intersections going forward. Both signals or roundabouts would be expected to handle the forecasted traffic volumes as we've shown. Roundabouts just have a greater safety performance in general. And so here we are again with the signalized version at these intersections. Rough plane level cost estimates for the widening of Tower Road and modifications to these, to either signals or roundabouts is somewhere in that $25 to $30 million range across everything. Similar to at the interchange itself, we would expect parts of this to be built in phases as development occurs, though it could happen as one project. But again, there's not funding identified for this all just to happen as one project, but instead to implement it as development occurs, traffic volumes grow. Ultimately costs will vary based on the timing of the final project and the ultimate design of the intersections and roadway widening. All right. The next component is the access management plan. So Oregon code is to not have accesses within a quarter mile of an interchange, if at all possible. In a rural area such as this. So this management plan shows the relocation of accesses to side streets and other things to then get access down to Tower Road at a location that is at least a quarter mile from the interchange ramp terminals. This will again happen phased in as new developments occur, as these new roadway connections are built. They're not specifically, we're not identifying specific locations for these new road connections, but rather using these red lines to show roughly what the future circulation network might look like, to move access down to Coonsey, to the Love Southern Driveway area. But again, the goal is to move accesses away from the interchange to preserve its safety and operational performance. All right, and then finally, implementing actions, ordinances, code changes. So adopting the IAMP does adopt the IAMP itself, as well as the overlay zone designation, as was shown on one of the earlier slides. This includes some new TIA or traffic impact analysis related requirements, including coordination with ODOT, the requirement to prepare trip generation information for new developments in that area, as well as the potential for preparing a construction study. It does envision, using proportionate share contributions to fund elements of this plan. However, that proportionate share contribution, that system does not actually come with adoption of the IAMP. It would be established and developed as part of the TSP update that is expected to begin. But for now, what it would leave in place, though, would be the different requirements for coordination with ODOT for preparing traffic impact studies, thresholds for them, for new developments, needing to prepare trip generation estimates to see if they need to prepare a traffic impact study, as well as looking at the effects of construction traffic. That's probably one of the more unique elements of this too. Let's see, and these have been drafted and revised based on stakeholder and county staff feedback, including the Port of Morrow. And we've made some changes to what we initially drafted based on meetings with them and other groups as we've gone through this process. With that, our next steps, once this is adopted, is to finalize the actual IAMP report itself, take it to the Oregon Transportation Commission for their acceptance, and then next steps is implementation, which is going to come down to identifying funding mechanisms, establishing that proportionate share system, and just working as development occurs, working with interested parties between agencies to monitor that and to implement things as the area grows and funding is available. With that, we can stop for questions.
Any questions, Nick?
Yes, I've got one. This is Commissioner Peterson. Thank you, Nick. That was a great presentation. My question is, how common is it for a plan like this to get written up and then there's never any funding and nothing happens?
That is a good question. I don't have any hard stats for you. The goal of coming up with a concept that has phased implementation and that has some of these implementing mechanisms is that this plan doesn't become that. I would say if this plan was set up where everything had to be built all at once and someone had to go out and find $200 million all at once to build the whole thing, I would say it's very likely that's how it would end up. But I think the way we've come up with a phased implementation of this project, assuming development continues to occur along the Tower Road area, I think we have it set up for implementation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Staff to report, or that pretty covered everybody?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot in the packet, but yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to
talk about. Any other questions of any of our staff?
I don't think so.
Oh, just
Okay,
Marcy.
Do
we-
the applicants just
Sorry, Shelley, Dennison, is part of the team, if you will, to present, and she was going to give you an overview of the actual code amendment pieces, so the overlay zone and some zoning code changes.
okay, so she's gonna do that now.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you ready, Shelley?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind giving me just a couple of minutes to get that pulled up.
Sorry, we've worked with them for the past 2 years, so maybe we should have been more specific. And then Teresa and Kelly, you're part of the project team. Do you want to give any comments as part of the project team?
I'll just say this, that it was a very collaborative effort to put this together. I think we had good participation by stakeholders as well as the county staff and the Morrow and others. And I think we worked through a number of different concepts that weren't shown here. I think we showed them at our work session earlier back in March, but to come up with this final plan and recommendation that we'll put forward.
Thank you.
Questions, other comments?
No.
Shelley is just getting her.
I think maybe while we're waiting for that, I can provide just a little more I thought of after I provided a response to that question, a couple of examples further down I-84 to the east here. Kind of a tale of two interchange area management plans. One, both in Pendleton, one at exit 209, one at exit 210. Exit 209 is more of it's an expensive project, needs to be built at once. And unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of progress since that one was completed. Exit 210 is more of a phased project. And if you've driven I-84 there, if you're heading east out of Pendleton, as you get back up come up out of Pendleton, up onto the plateau, you've probably seen dirt moving as development is occurring. They built a new local access road that goes down to the highway, and that new road that's been built is one of the pieces of the interchange area management plan for 210. Getting that access road in place and having it a part of the interchange area management plan, a big goal that was to unlock the development potential of that area up there, because otherwise they did not have very good access to it. And so we are seeing, the city was able to work with others to get that part in place already. And so we're seeing that one already moving forward. Again, it's more of a phased implementation approach as opposed to an all at once one.
Okay, so go for a field trip.
There you go.
Okay. All right. I'm able to talk about the implementing language for the code ordinances if we're ready.
Think so.
Yes.
Great. So just to refresh, what was the purpose of updating the code language was to make sure that the appropriate regulatory controls are in place for Morrow County to ensure specifically that access management standards are met. The access management standards are dictated by the OAR. So to ensure that those standards are met, that spacing standards are met, and then also standards to protect the future operations of that corridor. And then particularly one thing that we paid really close attention to was ensuring that there are the regulatory mechanisms in place to ensure that any future developments will be providing information about the potential impacts on the transportation facilities on the interchange for the purpose of the future program that Morrow County will likely be implementing to gather fees from future developers. We provided edits to a number of different articles, though the real meat of the edits are in Article 3, the zoning district designations. We're proposing a new section in Article 3, 3.125, the Interchange Access Management Plan Overlay Zone. And that section regulates, again, access. It provides definitions of what the boundaries are of the interchange influence area, which is what OAR defines as that quarter-mile radius. It also ensures that developers provide trip estimates prior or as part of the land use application package to determine if they do or do not need to provide a further transportation impact analysis. And then again, as Nick said previously, that in addition to the traffic impact analysis requirement, some developments, depending on the intensity of their construction traffic, would also be required to provide a construction traffic study. I believe those are kind of the main points. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has about the code language specifically.
And the Chair, the code language begins on page 82 of your packet. So
It goes to 102.
it goes to 102, yes. And we included red lines and blue lines because we had feedback, particularly from a legal team and also the port. So that's not to say we included all of those recommended changes, but just so that they could see from an earlier draft.
I guess my only question is, don't we already require a traffic impact analysis? Is this just codifying a common practice? What is the change specifically on that?
Yeah. So the requirement for a traffic impact analysis in the code as it currently exists is different between a zoning permit procedure versus a site plan review procedure. And so this code language ensures that even if a development would otherwise qualify for the less restrictive zoning permit review procedure, that it still may be required to submit a traffic impact study.
Okay, so we're raising the standard, not lowering it.
Correct. That's correct.
In IAMP, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you. And also of note, this is Tamara speaking, Shelley. This includes consideration of construction traffic, which over the past 6 years has become
Significant.
significant, yes. So in these particular interchange, so the interchange area management overlay zone would apply any place we have an adopted interchange area management plan. So we have, what were we saying earlier, 5, including this one?
Anybody or any questions? We're ready.
Not for me.
Okay. Okay, now we'll go into the public testimony portion. First up will be the opponents to testify and present evidence, and you have 3 minutes. Raise your hand.
Well, is there anybody in the room?
What?
Is there anybody in the room? Don't we do that first usually?
Yeah. Is there anybody in the room who wants to testify against?
Good.
Come on up, state your name, address, please come out. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Stuart Dick. I'm from Oregon. I come to oppose the adoption of this Tower Road interchange. With 3 minutes, I don't have time to read it. It's in the Gazette Times. If you okay this, you're okaying $95 to $209 million with no funding. That's going to get stuck with the public, and ODOT has already dropped 500 jobs. So this is not light industry that's going in here. The new interchange will provide access to 21,000 acres, recently zoned industrial commercial, which includes electrical power lines, water, sewer, roads, all infrastructure. Overwhelming industry would be new Amazon data centers. That's like the elephant in the room. Not one word about the data centers that are going in there. So right now we have, across America, we have 42 states that have now protests against these data centers. In Oregon, Governor Kotek has canceled the DC plan in Salem and Hillsborough. They've approved 120-day moratorium. You don't even know if these data centers are going to get built. And if they don't get built, you're building something for what? what is there out there? This data center at the exascale data center, it requires the power of 800,000 homes. The amount of water that it's going to use, 78,000 gallons of water every hour, 1,877,000 gallons of water every day. 70% to 80% of that water is going to evaporate. We lose it and never comes back here. The other 20% goes into a toxic, what they call blowdown, a toxic cocktail, toxic biocides, FPAs, inhibitors. Man or beast can't drink it. This is a disaster on our hands. And if you okay this, it is going to, it's without funding. How can you okay this without funding? So right now we're looking at organized protest in 42 states. Why? Water use, power strain, lack of voice of approval from the public. So that's my concern right now is the
30 seconds.
you voted against a 7-0 decision by the Planning Commission to have conditional use. You took away transparency and the opportunity for us to know what's going on. You're doing this in secret, and we're going to oppose it.
Okay. Do you have any staff or the commissioners have any questions for that testimony? Anybody else in the room? No, it's just us. Okay. Good. No, okay. Jonathan, is that Jonathan?
Yeah.
Wait, okay, Jonathan, you want to testify as an opponent?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I get on video as well too, please?
You have 3 minutes.
All right. You should be able to start video.
Okay, hold on one second. I did raise my hand when we talked about conflicts, and that, and please hold the time. I did raise my hand about conflicts, and I would like to make a statement about conflicts when I did raise my hand before we started this meeting. Can I do that, or is this?
You have 3 minutes starting right now.
No, hold on.
Yes.
I raised my hand when it came
Our
to
argument's
conflict.
taking up your 3 minutes.
No, but hold on. You've normally given us 5 minutes. I'm
Oh,
just
that's the rules, Jonathan.
Oh, hold
That's
on. You've
the
given us
rules of
5
the
minutes. You've normally given us 5 minutes. Please explain the situation to
Start
me.
his clock.
What's that?
You have 2 minutes and 54 seconds left.
No. What I want to talk about the conflicts. Okay.
You can talk about whatever you want. It's your testimony.
You're interrupting
You
my
have
time.
2
I'd like
minutes
to
and
have
40
my time back.
seconds left.
UEC also participated in the Tower Road IAMP process. The record identifies UEC along with the Port of Morrow, BPA, Amazon, and other parties involved in the area's infrastructures. I have repeatedly raised concerns about the transmission line and long-range planning because of my family's previous eminent domain case from Protective Order 20-094. I'm asking to disclose this information, that it remains legally protected, and I'm asking that the county disclose whether confidential infrastructure information, NDAs, utility relationship, or non-public assumptions are influencing these decisions. I've specifically asked because there's a substantial question about the TSP 164-26 itself was properly noticed, and because the significant materials for different land use matters appear to have been mixed together in this record, I formally request that the board not close the record today. I request a minimum 7-day period to submit additional evidence and argument, followed by an opportunity to respond to any new evidence submitted during that period. If the county refuses that request because it considers this a legislative proceeding, please state that refusal and legal basis for it on the record before taking action. At a minimum, I'm requesting that this hearing be continued until the county produces that specific DLCD and public notices for TSP 164-26, and that specific one, not the one that it relates to the query. I also want to note, okay, and that I have right here, I can't say myself on the camera, but right here, there's 4,000 acres that are going to go for Morrow County. Also, Tamro spoke at the DCAC meeting, the Data Center Advisory Committee, and she showed an overlay with the 1300 exascale data center that is conceptually being planned. All this needs to be shown in, and the record with the ODOT consultant never explained any of that as part of the situation. All that growth with the TIA is not shown here, and it needs to be shown in its complexities. Otherwise, this looks like you guys are waiting for the SIP deal with your non-disclosure agreements, that you're waiting for the application because you are trying to hide the fact that this is for Amazon, when we both know they're going to go through here and they're going to push this through, and it's going to take billions of dollars of tax money over the life of this SIP agreement.
Okay. That's your testimony. Thank you. Does the staff or commission have any questions?
I have a comment, if that's okay.
Yeah.
For the record, Tamara Mebbutt, Planning Director. An overarching comment. The purpose of doing a plan and having regulations is to capture where our code and the legal process allows. So when there are impacts to a state-owned facility or a county-owned facility like Tower Road, the developer pays their proportionate share for whatever improvements need to be made. Not, and that can be for any developer. And if you look on page 89 of the packet, it shows the interchange influence area. But any development that happens in that overlay zone, if they meet a certain threshold, including some farm-related development, if they meet that traffic threshold, would pay a proportionate share. And as Nick pointed out, we don't have anything in place like a system development charge, which would be a fund, if you will. We don't have any in the county. Most rural counties don't, but at the rate of development, we're experiencing several rural counties are talking about that. So an individual project where they show a certain amount of impact might not trigger the threshold for a phasing of the development that Nick reviewed, but they might put into a fund a proportionate amount. That SDC piece would come when we start our transportation system plan, and we just got the final go-ahead week before last from ODOT on that. So again, my message is this is a planning document, and the intent is to have development pay their proportionate share, and we have some conceptual designs in place for the regulators and the developers to consider as they move forward with projects.
And as we continue to see growth down the road.
Yeah.
And I think Shelley had comments to add too.
Yeah, I'll also add, just with the proportional share fee system, we had a lot of conversations specifically about data centers, of how do we ensure that data centers, when they are built in this area, provide the financing that they are obligated to for their impacts on the interchange. And one of the big obstacles in that is because once a data center is constructed, it doesn't have very many jobs. So it doesn't generate enough vehicle trips to warrant transportation impact analysis under the code as it currently stands. But the code language actually adds requirements, right? It raises the standard for development within the interchange area. And that means that data centers in the interchange area will need to provide, again, like the construction traffic study and potentially a transportation impact analysis where they otherwise wouldn't be required to without this updated code language. And so this new code, this new implementing ordinance actually raises the standards for development within the interchange area. And we paid specific attention to the specific kind of land use of data centers and the kinds of traffic that they generate.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Commissioner, any questions about her statements? I
That was very clarifying. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to,
There might be more people. I think Jacob Kane.
the
He's
what?
not, Jacob Kane might want to present comments. He's not really in opposition, but
Well, it's neutrals next.
okay, excellent.
Okay, interested people or agencies want to provide neutral testimony or evidence on this issue. Please raise your hand. Yes, sir. State your name, who you're with. Go, you got 3 minutes.
Sure. Jacob Kane, representing the Port of Morrow. Name is spelled JACOB CAIN. Address is P.O. Box 200, Boardman, Oregon 97813. 818. I apologize. So yeah, I've just got 2 comments, and this would be agency related. The first is, and these both are relevant to the code amendments. E.4 access approvals. We made comment and worked on it in our workshop. We would suggest striking subsection 4 in its entirety, as we like to have the ability to approve access controls on port-owned roadway systems that are not accessing county or state infrastructure. The other one is more of a clarifying question, most likely. I didn't see anywhere in the code language the construction lasting longer than 30 days in the process for getting permits. And this relates to very small utility infrastructure projects that need land use approval. Most construction projects don't last less than 30 days, but it might be the construction of a very small utility building. And it would subject all of those little tiny projects to a construction TIA, which I don't think is warranted. And I didn't see it in the language, but I apologize for not bringing this up earlier, because I didn't see the process. What is this called? The application process format. So you go down through the pre-application meeting. Does the proposal trigger any of the following? We would be no in those types of projects. A trip generation estimate is submitted, and you get down to, does the proposal trigger any of the following? And it's the construction duration of 30 days or longer for very small projects that might have 1 or 2 trips a day, or up to 10 trips a day, or whatever that is. The answer would probably be yes, which for the construction duration, which would subject those little tiny things to construction traffic study, which I don't think is warranted or necessary for anything of the construction type of the less than 400 trips per day TIA requirement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other neutral testimony to be given? Does the staff or commission have any questions on this neutral statement that was just given?
Chair, if it's okay, I'd like Shelley to address Jacob Kane's 2 comments. I'm putting you on the spot, Shelley. The first one is E4 on page 96 of the packet. And do you know what, could you tell us the number again of the other comment, Jacob?
So the number on the other comment, I think, is, well, I don't see it. I don't see the 30-day requirement in any of the code language, but it shows up in the application process on page, it's stamped 102. It's the Morrow County IAMP overlay zone application process. It's the figures for navigating through the permit process.
Okay, so I'll talk first about that section, the E4. So that standard approval of access to streets within the overlay zone shall be granted only after review by the county, with notice and opportunity for comment to ODOT. This was purposely written to ensure that opportunity for ODOT to comment is necessary, but it's not the only agency that the county would potentially consult with. So let me make sure I can explain this better. So consulting with ODOT is a necessary part of the project, but it's not sufficient as far as working with or consulting with other agencies like the Port of Morrow. And so this does not eliminate the opportunity to either formally encode or informally collaborate with the Port of Morrow on access points that would be of interest to the Port of Morrow. And then for the construction traffic study, it is in the code. It's in 3.125, section H, which talks about construction traffic. The first number under that talking about what effects would trigger the need for a construction traffic study. Letter C under that is the standard of a duration of construction activity of 30 days or longer. And while that is a relatively short amount of time, that is pretty standard. That is a standard amount of time for jurisdictions that choose to have a standard like this one, a required construction traffic study. And then we were also mindful of the fact, again, with data centers, that they are being built faster and faster. And we wanted to ensure that this particular standard of requiring a construction traffic study didn't leave cracks for data centers to fall through.
Okay, any questions of that statement? I missed, what was Jacob's son? Was he citizen or staff?
He's Port Morrow staff. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Go ahead, Jacob.
I just a couple clarifying questions then for Shelley. She said E4 was necessary for ODOT to review, and I totally agree with that if it was in the influence area, not the overarching overlay zone. Am I incorrect in that assumption?
So ODOT does have an express interest in the impacts on transportation facilities beyond just the immediate influence area, beyond just the quarter-mile radius around the interchange. And so this standard, keeping it as overlay zone, ensures that ODOT is given opportunity to comment for projects within the entire overlay zone, and not just within that quarter-mile radius.
Okay, but you said necessary, like it was an ODOT regulation. That's not the case, right?
Giving ODOT the opportunity to comment, right? Notifying them of the project and providing them notice and opportunity to comment. That is what is required. Whether or not ODOT actually does is up to them.
Okay, and then my second question involves the other subject on the application process. I still, and maybe I'm looking at the wrong sheet, I didn't see a 30-day construction process, and totally agree on big developments that are going to add traffic to the system during construction. Totally makes sense. And I'm not bringing in the data centers, but my argument is that 30-day construction window is going to subject every construction of anything to a construction TIA, when in reality, everything that we're going to be doing out there involves utility infrastructure and little projects that will be subjected to a construction TIA.
That's correct. Yeah. So I'll also add that a construction TIA is significantly less burdensome than a traditional traffic impact analysis. So the construction traffic study its only base requirements are, let's see, projected construction traffic volumes, haul routes, schedule, and phases. So it is arguably information that going into construction they would already have. And then any additional proposals for mitigating impacts on transportation facilities would be required only as they are demonstrated to be needed through those base requirements of the construction traffic study.
Chair, if I might, I think those really small projects, Jacob, or utility work in your right of way, we're not even involved in those. So we anticipated some of the small development. I kept using the example of like a small hay shed that is not going to generate much traffic. We'd go through the motion and we can of providing notice to ODOT and to County Public Works, but we would turn that around really quickly, if that helps.
So I guess a question on that, because I can see their point of 30 days is it would 6 months address, as an example, address some of their concerns. Whereas, I understand where Shelley's point is that you aren't going to construct a data center or any large facility in 6 months. So would 6 months be, as an example, a more appropriate time frame?
For the study? Could be. I don't know the answer.
Any other questions of any of the neutral testimony from staff that's been given? Next, does anyone like to continue the hearing or hold the record open?
Chair, I'd like Dan Cairns to address that if that's okay. I know
Sure.
that request and he's online. So are you ready, Dan?
Yes. Good afternoon. I listened to Mr. Tallman has already made the request that you keep the record open and continue this hearing. And you're not required to do so under state law. This is a legislative matter first of all, and it's been through a whole series of public hearings before the Planning Commission. Mr. Tallman has taken advantage of submitting all the information, questions, and documents that he chose to do so. And so there's no justification, there's no legal requirement that you continue this or keep the record open. I mean, it's up to you. He asked that you disclose documents, non-disclosure agreements, those sorts of things. I was listening carefully. I didn't hear any allegation of personal conflict of interest on the part of any of the board members. And that's what your disclosure is about under the ethics rules, that you are obligated to disclose personal conflicts of interest when matters come before you where you have a personal financial stake in the outcome. And I didn't hear any allegation that any of you do. Mr. Tallman has been asking everybody that he can to provide non-disclosure agreements, and he can always ask, but I recommend that you politely say no. And then his wanting disclosure of funding sources for these projects. This whole planning exercise, there's no obligation that you identify funding sources for any of this. This is a typical land use planning process when you plan for stormwater facilities or parks or all kinds of infrastructure, cities, counties. They don't identify funding sources. What starts is what do governing bodies envision as part of their long-range infrastructure system. And sometimes they're never funded. So there's no obligation to do that. They can always ask, and you can Your planners have worked very hard to identify funding sources, and you too have, but there's no obligation to fund any of this at this point in time. So Mr. Tallman presented quite a few requests. I tried to catch them all. There's absolutely no legal basis for granting any of his requests. So I recommend you simply and politely decline.
Okay, we've heard Daniel's statement there, so we're going to cross off that. That will not be part of our agenda here. So with that, we're going to close the public hearing. And at this time, the Board of Commissioners will deliberate and ask questions. Further questions of staff, if you have some. So.
Yeah, I've got one. So this is how I understand it, but I just want to be very clear. And I think, Nick, you'd probably be the best person to answer this. So if we approve of this plan and it never comes about, we're not on the hook for any money. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the money would have to be gotten later, and it would most likely be done by those who are doing the development themselves, and the plan is to justify how that money will come about. Is that correct?
That is the goal of the proportionate share system that will be established through the TSP process, would be to, have them play their role in it.
Yeah, so we are establishing the plan and telling developers ahead of time, if you develop here, this is going to be part of the cost. You're going to help pay for the roads.
Yes.
Based on the TIA.
Based on the TIA. Okay. I feel like I understand well enough. Thank you.
Any other questions from the staff? Okay, I'll call for a motion. Well, I'll call for a motion to make your decision. That'll be a roll call vote. Okay, motion is. What's our motion? Let me get this right.
And on page 5 of your packet, we have 2 options.
Let's see that.
There's only 390 pages.
Right.
Oh, thank you. Oh, no, well, that's a screen in mind that prints very small.
It's hard to read. Yeah.
You might need some cheaters.
Okay, option 1, option 2.
That's maximized to the largest.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Anybody's going to make that motion on 1 or 2?
I'm trying to get to the David. It's big.
Give me paper to be easier to read.
Oh,
Make it fun. Yeah.
you're memorizing.
No, you're going to memorize a paragraph. Yes. The Morrow County Board of Commissioners approves the adoption of the following: the Interchange Area Management Plan, IAMP, for the I-84 159/Tower Road interchange, amendments to the Morrow County zoning ordinance to establish section 3.125, the Interchange Access Management Plan overlay zone, and to adopt the overlay zone map amendment.
Second.
Seconded by Jeff Windholz. It's a roll call vote. Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Sykes, aye. Mr. Windholz?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Thank you all for participation in being here. And this concludes our public hearing. I'll adjourn the meeting. Adjourn hearing.